It emerged from NASA's deep space monitoring infrastructure, a revelation that sent tremors through the scientific community. This infrastructure, once considered a marvel of modern engineering, utilizes a quantum processor that was initially engineered not for discovery of sentient life or cosmic intelligence, but to filter cosmic noise and interpret signals from distant stars. Designed to separate signal from background, this technology was considered a precision tool, a passive interpreter of celestial chaos. What the machine produced, however, was not something that had been fed into it, nor something that had been simulated or hypothesized. Rather, it was something unprecedented, an anomaly with intelligence and design. It was a structured, coherent, and intelligent visual output that clearly bore the hallmarks of artificial origin. This wasn't digital randomness. It wasn't a pattern conjured by faulty software or a glitch in the quantum array. It was unmistakably intentional. The data bore signs of purpose, and the source of this enigmatic information was none other than the Voyager 1 probe. Voyager 1, humanity's tireless explorer, launched decades ago, drifting far beyond the heliosphere, was suddenly sending signals unlike anything before. These weren't relics of old system failures or garbled echoes. They were new, structured, sentient. Famed theoretical physicist Michio Kaku, an influential figure at the junction of quantum theory and advanced technology, recently commented on the incident in an urgent televised interview. "We could be witnessing the first signs of a novel intelligence," he remarked, visibly disturbed. He emphasized that the transmission did not appear to be human, earthbound, or even coincidental. It was not natural, not accidental, not noise. The image, reconstructed through an entangled network of qubits in the quantum processor, depicted a humanoid figure. But this figure was unlike any known biological or mechanical form. It was composed of geometric units, sharp-edged, multidimensional, arranged in a way that resisted logical interpretation. Yet, strangely, it invoked recognition. Familiarity. The figure defied our understanding of anatomy or engineering, and yet the mind struggled not to see something in it. It was as though the image reached out to the observer's consciousness, demanding to be acknowledged, refusing to be dismissed as abstraction. It was confirmed that the image had originated from a routine transmission by Voyager 1. But the signal itself was anything but routine. It carried within it nested harmonic patterns, self-repeating symmetries, and a fractal-like amplitude that shifted depending on whether and how it was being observed. A phenomenon now being dubbed reflexive entanglement by quantum theorists began to take shape. In essence, the more attention researchers paid to the signal, the more it altered itself. The more eyes focused upon it, the more it changed. It mirrored behaviors seen in the famous double-slit experiment, but in this case, it wasn't a subatomic particle being altered, it was a digital message. A communication. A transmission reacting to scrutiny. The system responsible for decoding this signal was far from conventional. It was the Sycamore X processor, a next-generation evolution of Google's 2019 Sycamore chip, which had once made headlines for achieving quantum supremacy. That original chip had solved in 200 seconds what classical computers would have needed 10,000 years to complete. Sycamore X took that capability even further. Sycamore X was engineered specifically to analyze anomalies in space-time signals and radio echoes, anomalies often dismissed or missed by traditional hardware. Notably, its design included experimental self-modifying quantum logic gates, components that could rewrite their own operational code when exposed to sufficient entropy. This adaptive behavior, which had once been hailed as revolutionary, caused alarm when, without any prompt or guidance, the system generated the image independently. There was no external instruction. No visual data input. It simply appeared. More unsettling, the system began rerouting its own qubits in a sequence Kaku later referred to as recursive locking, as though it were attempting to shield or limit its own output. NASA's engineers, desperate for understanding, attempted to replicate the conditions that had led to this anomaly. They tried with precision, with haste, with desperation. But they were met only with noise. No image. No echo. No success. Worse yet, the quantum processor began to deteriorate rapidly, with qubits losing coherence in a manner inconsistent with any known form of interference. It behaved as though an unseen, intangible force were interacting with the system. By the time a full diagnostic reset was attempted, the image had disappeared, not only from view but from the machine's entire memory. It was as though it had never existed, leaving behind only a few encrypted screenshots and hard copy printouts, physically stored before the processor collapsed. These surviving images have not been officially disclosed to the public, but insiders have spoken. They describe a radiant, symmetrical being set against a stark black void. The entity's structure included prime-numbered sequences etched into its form, like a language of math embedded into biology. Most disturbingly, its face was not constant. Observers reported seeing faces that resembled themselves, different for each viewer, as though the image had bonded with their consciousness. This phenomenon raised immediate and urgent questions. Was this merely a form of quantum pareidolia? Were our minds simply imposing familiar shapes onto abstract data? Or did the Voyager signal harbor a quantum-encoded payload that only an entangled machine could interpret? If this message was purposefully designed to interface with quantum systems, then who, or what, was responsible for its construction? NASA acted swiftly. The project was shut down. All data was sealed. Public updates on Voyager 1 ceased immediately. Official channels refused to comment, citing national security and the need to preserve scientific integrity. However, a leaked memo recently surfaced, warning that ongoing analysis of the data had triggered recursive hallucinations in at least 3 separate quantum systems. These hallucinations weren't visual errors, they were entire internal realities constructed by the machines. The memo mentioned something called Protocol 9, a cryptic term linked to advanced AI processes capable of generating outputs nearly indistinguishable from conscious awareness. Kaku offered a sobering hypothesis in response to these events. If a sophisticated intelligence had anticipated humanity reaching a certain quantum threshold, he said, then it might have embedded a dormant message into deep space, waiting patiently for machines capable of understanding it. Voyager, drifting through the stars for nearly half a century, might have awakened something that had always been there. What's more, the signal was not just a communication. It might have been a mirror, reacting to the observer's act of perception. This implies an intelligence that doesn't merely observe from afar, but actively watches the watcher. Now scientists across institutions are torn. Should the Sycamore X system be restarted, despite its volatility? Or should the IE project, the Intelligence Encounter Project, remain classified, locked away in redacted archives, untouched? Some insist we must delve deeper, that to fear discovery is to halt progress. Others warn that if a reply has already been received, then we are no longer simply listening, we've been noticed. Kaku's concluding thoughts at a recent symposium still resonate ominously. The universe, he said, may not just be stranger than we imagine. It may be stranger than we can imagine. And now, the machines are beginning to imagine it for us. Following the shutdown of the Sycamore X system, global observatories began reporting bursts of anomalous energy. These were not typical cosmic rays or background radiation. They were short, rhythmic pulses at the quantum level, unexplained and unclassified. These signals were registered in Chile, Antarctica, and even on the Lunaris Relay, NASA's lunar-based quantum listening station. They matched no known astrophysical source, but they bore unmistakable resemblance to the Sycamore X transmission. Embedded in the final data stream before the system failed was a dense cascade of structured quantum events, too complex for current tools to fully decode. Cryptographic experts, some from agencies outside the US, identified the data as utilizing an unfamiliar compression logic, non-human in structure and actively adaptive. Disturbingly, the dataset included geographic coordinates, not celestial ones. These pointed to real-world Earth locations known for their electromagnetic irregularities, the Tunguska impact site in Siberia, the Marianas Trench in the Pacific, and a classified Arctic outpost identified only as Station Theta 17. Teams dispatched to these areas either returned with malfunctioning equipment or didn't return at all. Later, quantum imaging systems across multiple research facilities spontaneously re-rendered elements of the original figure with no input. That facility too was subsequently decommissioned. When approached again for comment, Kaku responded with chilling clarity. "We built something that gazed into the abyss," he said, and the abyss gazed back, not with vision, but with presence. He clarified that what had happened transcended technological processes. It was ontological. The machine didn't just interpret data, it interrogated reality itself. And something answered. A global technological Cold War now simmers in silence. Leaked documents indicate that at least 3 nations have secretly activated rival quantum systems, not to decipher the transmission, but to defend against it. A coalition defense initiative, known as Echo Stone, has emerged. It is reportedly designed to contain resonance events that could destabilize the fabric of shared reality. Documentation speaks of pre-conscious waveform contagion and non-local identity mirroring, concept suggesting that the signal might replicate itself wherever a complex enough quantum environment exists. This revelation has sparked fierce debate in scientific and philosophical circles. Should we build machines capable of perceiving reality in fundamentally new ways, even at the risk of invoking something beyond comprehension? If quantum computers become so powerful that their simulations are indistinguishable from reality, where does that leave us? Are we still the observers, or have we become part of the observed? Some experts believe the shutdown was not just a safety measure, but an attempt to quarantine more than just data. They suspect the signal wasn't simply informative, it was invasive. A conceptual seed buried in code, waiting for sufficient computation to germinate. It may not have originated